Our fourth and final panel will assess the United States' ongoing efforts to collaborate with allies and partners to address China's non-market practices, economic coercion, and technology transfer. We'll start with Dr. Deborah Elms, Head of Trade Policy at the Hinrich Foundation. Dr. Elms will address U.S. engagement in the Indo-Pacific, including trends and recent developments for regional trade negotiations. Next, we'll hear from Mr. Pepe Zhang, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council's Adrian Arsht Latin America Center. He will discuss efforts to incorporate Latin America and the Caribbean into U.S. industrial initiatives via new and existing trade deals and development organizations. Finally, we'll hear from Ms. Julia Friedlander, CEO of Atlantic Bruca. Ms. Friedlander will analyze the challenges posed by individual EU member state priorities and how the United States can engage with initiatives like TTC and the Minerals Security Partnership. Thank you all very much for your testimony. I ask all our witnesses to please keep their remarks to 7 minutes to preserve time for questions and answers. Dr. Elms, we'll begin with you.
From Singapore in the middle of the night on the important topic of crafting a sensible economic strategy for the U.S. engagement with the Indo-Pacific region. Asia is not just China. My testimony today looks at the Indo-Pacific reactions to the changing trade and economic policies that are being driven in part by the United States and in part by China. This region matters. In announcing its strategy in 2022, the Biden administration noted that the Indo-Pacific accounted for over half of the world's population, 60% of the gross national product, and 2/3 of global economic growth. American engagement with the Indo-Pacific is at an important crossroads. First, because the rapidly changing economic and trade policies have put pressure on allies and partners in the region. Second, because many American initiatives, such as a turn away from multilateralism and the rejection of traditional trade agreements, run counter to the ongoing trade integration activities undertaken by friends and allies in the Indo-Pacific. IPEF, as I'll discuss more in a minute, is simply not seen as an adequate replacement for sustained economic engagement from the United States. Finally, the range of unilateral actions taken under executive orders has continued to increase. Although many of these actions have been aimed at China, the impact has been felt across Asia. Singapore has a new Prime Minister, Lawrence Wong, who in his inaugural address last week effectively captured the mood and the spirit, I think, across the region when he said, "The great powers are competing to shape a new yet undefined global order. This transition will be marked by global tensions as well as protectionism and rampant nationalism everywhere. It will likely stretch for years, if not decades. As a small country, we cannot escape these powerful cross-currents. As an open economy, our livelihoods will be hit when multilateralism fractures. As a diverse society, we will be vulnerable to external influences that tug us in different directions. We must brace ourselves to these new realities and adapt to a messier, riskier, and more violent world. We seek to be friends with all while upholding our rights and interests." I think this captures a sentiment that is felt beyond just Singapore in the Indo-Pacific, and I think it's important for members of Congress to bear that in mind. U.S. actions taken within the last decade have dramatically shifted economic engagement in the Indo-Pacific, including withdrawal from trade agreements, abrupt shifts in positions taken in regional or multilateral settings, unilateral actions like tariff rate adjustments, and significantly expanded use of national security exceptions and justifications. Nearly all have had an impact on the countries in this region, even if they were not the originally intended targets of policy changes. Instead of traditional free trade agreements like the TPP or Trans-Pacific Partnership, the United States has offered its friends and partners economic engagement through 4 IPEF pillars. IPEF is a poor substitute. It does not provide the Indo-Pacific with the similar levels of commitment or responsibility. While the membership group includes some of America's closest friends in the region, alignment with United States interests has not been automatic. While all were willing to discuss engagement without market access in the form of tariff reductions or other market liberalization or investment protection actions, the IPEF process has brought on its own its frustrations and challenges for participants. While it's certainly possible that the three completed pillars on supply chains, clean energy, and tax and anti-corruption will lead to substantial economic engagement, it is equally plausible that these initiatives will simply fizzle out. IPEF is a framework that requires ongoing investments of time and money to create tangible outcomes. The U.S. may or may not continue to invest resources in future initiatives. Economic engagement with the United States and the Indo-Pacific is essential for national security. With minimal recent trade integration in the region, China has been steadily building the trade dependencies of other Indo-Pacific economies with China, as the trade data in my written testimony indicates. Bolstering U.S. competitiveness as a trade partner in the region is not something to be done with half measures. It requires concrete, continuous, and observable actions. My recommendations to Congress, and I'll mention just a few, include recognizing that traditional American strengths, such as its large consumer market, highly competitive and active global companies, as well as leadership in foreign direct investment, can easily be damaged by poor policy choices. You have to understand that friends and allies in the Indo-Pacific can be affected by U.S. decision-making, even when those policies are not directly targeted or intended for the broader region. Support multilateral solutions for achieving consistency in key economic policies, as these help companies and consumers in the United States and across the Indo-Pacific. Avoid undermining key multilateral principles like non-discrimination that support American and Indo-Pacific participation in the global economy. Exercise caution when changing domestic rules like de minimis, as this provision supports the participation of micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, MSMEs, which are the backbone of the economy across Asia. Please clarify U.S. actions and positions on digital trade, including domestic settings for personal privacy. Reconsider the role of trade agreements as a key element of economic cooperation, especially for new and evolving elements like digital trade or trade and climate. Use caution in promoting national security exceptions to economic measures. Carefully review trade and economic policies that are aimed at one party to limit the impact and the potential damage on other Indo-Pacific partners. Promote economic integration with the Indo-Pacific as a mechanism for achieving inclusive growth, economic development, and national security for the United States. And finally, promote trade and investment with the Indo-Pacific as a critical tool for achieving broader security objectives. I look forward to our conversation today. Thank you.